Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern to discuss the Consumer Electronics Show that happened this week. Lots of interesting stuff. So how are you today, Steve?
I'm very well, Ben. Hi to everyone out there in FiST Chat land. Yeah, very interesting, the CES for 2012. I'm not so sure that some of the products were quite as exciting as some of the hype might have suggested. But I think, as you're about to tell us, behind the scenes, there's some very interesting moves afoot. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just on that briefly before we go on, I mean, I think with any type of exhibition like this, when we're talking about future technologies or supposed future technologies and products, that, you know, there's a certain amount of excitement, but it seems as if the only types of companies that can generate that level of excitement are companies like Apple, really, because they innovate and, you know, they get, whether it's earned or not, they seem to get people wrapped up in a frenzy whenever they get, you know, even the suggestion that something new could come out. And in this particular case, if we bring it back to CES, it looks like Apple was sort of overshadowing a lot of what people and what these companies were thinking in terms of what they had on offer. So if we have a look, obviously there was a lot going on as far as, you know, tech.
Was there really, Ben?
Well, that's...
a television bigger? Wow. A television a little bit thinner?
Oh,
no deal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was amazed. There was one that won a CNET award. It was a 55-inch LG screen, and it was only 4 millimeters thick.
Yeah.
Which is impressive, but you kind of think, you wonder if something like that's going to break or something, or you're somehow going to maybe miss it somewhere.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say about the TV sets is they have started on the way to ultra definition. So they had the ultra definition sets, which I think have twice the resolution.
Yeah.
And these are really just a stepping stone to the ultra high definition sets, which will mean that you at home one day will have the equivalent resolution of an IMAX cinema in the home. Now, that is something big. Yeah. You know, these sorts of levels of resolution. But, you know, by and large, whether you wave a remote at a television or your hand is neither here nor there. What I'm more interested about is what's really going on behind the scenes and where is the future of TV going. I mean, granted, this is a consumer show. It's not an innovation show.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting to see, you know, like a wall that becomes a television. I'm still expecting to see a TV. But, you know, these TVs, apart from a bit of extra resolution from being thinner, bigger, not that great, or are they, Ben? That's the question.
Yeah, well, that's the big thing, though, is that where is this leading to? And and obviously, on a minor scale, there's obviously the thought that Apple's going to release its own TV that's going to obviously be much smarter than everybody else's, and the competition was scrambling to get as much features into their TVs as possible. But I think that kind of brings into a broader perspective as to where the television or the way technology in your home works. I think we're seeing a trend starting to develop where the PC is in effect going to be demoted as part of the, you know, as the central hub for your, you know, sort of experience in the home. Your home itself is going to become the thing that gets connected to the internet and to the world and to the cloud and all those things. And all of these things are devices that are going to be plugged in. And, you know, maybe you or I still need a PC because, you know, we do high-end sort of stuff, you know, video editing or web design or whatever else. But you know, anyone else that you know isn't into all of that all they need is to be able to check their email, look up what's on TV, or check Facebook or something. They don't need all of that. So all they need, if they've got an internet-connected TV, a tablet device like an iPad or whatever else. I'm sure by that point, someone else would have come out with something else as well there. You got your phones that are connected. That's where it's all going to be. And, we've talked about Siri and voice recognition technology. Microsoft announced there would be a Connect for Windows 8 when it comes out this year. So there you got gestures, maybe some combination of the two. You can talk to all your devices. You walk in, you come home after work and you start talking, and all these devices react to you when you come in, and it should be instantaneous.
Well, and what I understood from CES, this is probably the most interesting thing of what you're talking about. I only see two makers that really are going to emerge out of this. Obviously Apple, because Apple makes the hardware. So if and when, and we expect Apple to probably release an Apple TV sometime this year.
Yeah.
They've got all their accessories, which are your phone, your iPad, whatever else it is. You've got all that media through the iTunes store, stored up in the cloud, which you can access onto your Apple TV or onto your iPad or on your iPhone. Samsung is in a similar position. At least they've got Android. Okay, they've got their Samsung tablets. They've got their Samsung TVs. So they're kind of ready as well. But other makers like that don't seem to really have that side of the business locked down, and that's where that scramble's occurring, because I don't actually see DVDs existing in another 5 years if we keep going this way. And what's that going to mean for your Sony DVD player with the Sony big screen?
Just on a sidebar, I think we were just talking before, I got an Apple TV for Christmas, and I've realised that I don't need to buy any physical media anymore. So in a certain sense, that technology is available to anyone right now to be able to do that. It's really an amazing thing to think that at some point, maybe sooner rather than later, we will be in a position where your home will have everything streaming. You'll have all this information, data, media, everything streaming to devices in your home.
Well, tell me then, Ben, because if you've got Apple with their sort of ecosystem, and if you've got Samsung with their ecosystem, Microsoft is the next big one. You've talked about Connect, Windows 8, and oh my God, people try to get us excited about a Nokia with Windows 8. Who cares about that? Okay, I want to know what television brand is going to team up with Windows 8.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Well, maybe it'll be one of these other ones, Sony, Panasonic, or whoever. And the idea is that that they're going to be desperate to want to stay in the market for this. So, and if Microsoft needs one of these sort of partners, or maybe they could use both, who knows, or more than that, because Microsoft's had that history of licensing the proprietary software to different makers so that they can put it out there. And it's interesting to see how that'll go. And I think, there's a big question mark about Microsoft at the moment as to whether they're going to, sort of drop the ball, maybe miss the boat kind of thing with the way things are going at the moment. But I think there's still a very real chance that they're going to come in and at least present something that is going to stick around. And with Windows 8, you've got the Connect technology. It's all going to feature as part of it.
But as you've always said, Ben, Microsoft, have always been there. They're the big package. They do software and then they do hardware with their game systems. Where does this leave someone like Google now?
Yeah, well, Google, there you go. I mean, yeah, they can.
We love Google, but they look like they're dropping the ball. They're getting beaten on every front.
They can license Android to be used on TVs, and apparently there were a lot of Google TVs that they're not, running the Android software. But you look at what they're looking at, and you hear them talking about, making money off of search-based advertising in the TV, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, guys. I mean, can't you? Do something. I think that's where Google is. That they're the ones with the question mark. I think because the other guys have a story to tell, with what they want to do. Apple obviously has the, for lack of a better word, the sexy story to tell, because they get everyone excited about their products. Samsung is the biggest tech manufacturer in the world. And obviously they've got a lot of grunt, they've got a lot of reputation behind them, and they do come out with some good stuff. Microsoft, for example, has been around for a long time, and they're too well ingrained, I think, to just go out and whimper out.
And I'd also add to that, I mean, Vista was a disaster, but I think if you've had a look at Windows 7 and a lot of the stuff they've done since, there's been quality products. They probably don't attract the hype they used to anymore because of all the other newer players, but I actually think Microsoft is well on track.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, as another sidebar, they're not going to be doing any more keynotes or be represented at CES in the future. Although,
because they're going to copy Apple, Ben.
Set up all those Microsoft stores everywhere and set up their own events. Yeah, if nothing else, they're going to stay in business because they're copying what Apple does, the Apple strategy. But apparently they were quoted as saying they didn't definitively say we're not doing CES anymore. They just said we're taking a break from CES, which,
until 2013.
And see what they come up with then. But it might be a good thing for Microsoft not to do it, because they've had the last few years they've come out and they've said, yeah, we're going to have Windows tablets, and we're going to have really good the stuff with the phone, and none of this stuff has eventuated to a great degree. So maybe it's a good thing that they don't front CES and make these keynotes that try to get people excited, and then nothing ever eventuates out of it. But who knows? I think all those guys are in there. Just quickly, with the last few minutes left, we've talked about now how the big theme there, I think, was how the TV and devices are going to make a sort of a connected home for the average consumer. But obviously, there's the more traditional sort of stuff. You had a lot of the one thing I noticed was a lot of the Ultrabooks that were coming out, the MacBook Air clones. Yeah. It's all just a bit more catch up as far as that seems to be concerned. I mean,
all old hat, Ben, all old hat.
Yeah, exactly. And but I mean, you were mentioning some of the more curious gadgets as well. You want to run through a few of those?
Well, I think in terms of if you look at transportation, there was the unicycle and the board of awesomeness, both a little bit different to each other, but both of them like fantastic ways to get around for any FiST Chat fan. Run on batteries, rechargeable, probably got a range of, I think they were saying, between up to 20 kilometres. If you can't take a bike, you could jump on one of these and get to where you're going. The interesting thing about the board of awesomeness is it actually uses a Connect interface. So instead of your foot banging on the ground, you actually use hand gestures like this to pump yourself along. That's cool, right? That's the future. No need for cars if you're just driving around town. So I thought some of that stuff was great. I don't know, do you see yourself on something like that? The unicycle that you can't fall off?
We'll watch this space and we'll see how it goes. If they send one to me, I'll give it a go. One other thing I did happen to hear was Ford is actually getting the last few years they've been really, at least in America anyway, they've been pushing the wireless technology and this sort of app-based sort of environment that you get on a phone or an iPad inside their cars.
Yes.
And it seems like they were there at CES as well, and they were actually pushing a lot of this stuff as well, which was very interesting. The idea that you could have display the windscreen and dash become a display for lots of things. You want to search for something, you want to search for where you want to go, there'll be a display that shows up in your windscreen, so you don't have to sort of like look around or look for another screen and take your eye off the road while it's happening. All very kind of interesting stuff for the future, and very science fiction-y.
Well, just on that, I had one other thing. It's probably not as big, in this day where we've got the interconnectivity in terms of, being a peripheral that you buy with your PC, but 3D printers were quite big at the CES. Now, for designers, artists, or for people that are just interested in doing some pretty interesting stuff, the 3D printer is the equivalent of scanners and the original inkjet printers back in the 90s when photo enthusiasts converted everything to digital. So that will actually make a big difference. I think you'll probably find in another 10 years, everyone will have a 3D printer, just like they have a normal printer.
Absolutely. Well, that's probably a good place to finish up. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat. Always good to talk about tech. It's always a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Tweet us if you saw anything at CES that you liked.
Absolutely. So don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all of our links there, videos, blogs. We'll have new blogs on what we've discussed today, featuring over the coming week. So that's it for this week's episode. So we'll catch you next week.